homes being generated, there's a lot of additional income that the whole project should generate into the area. The club claims an increase of an additional 173 million on extra local spend per year. So does, along with the 4,000 jobs that it will create in generating economic growth, how do you feel on the validity of those figures?
And whoever's eating crisps, stop.
I'm actually trying to find headphones because my phone's on fire right now. It's burning my face off, guys.
Bizarre.
It's off the hook.
It's difficult to either challenge or to say that those figures are right in terms of what the spend is. There's a lot of opposition on there as well. But we're having the club to know that they will have done their research properly on this, and local authority Haringey is also saying that there's going to be a lot of local benefits. So if they're saying it's £173 million extra, I think they'll be fairly confident that that's going to be the case. And I mean, this is something that's being looked at sort of from central government level as well. So people are aware of the importance of the project, I think, to the area and to the development of London as a whole. Did you get?
Yeah, no, I think we got the message. I think that question was. No, I think we got you there. I think that question was just derived as was there any additional information as to whether the bulk of that 173 million was going to be in the hands of ENIC as opposed to the hands of the community? But it sounds like that's a community-based figure.
I think they're talking about spending the local economy, as well. I mean, when you kind of get into sort of ownership of various bits of property, then you're into some quite tricky territory.
Cool.
Nice sound effects of a crow flying overhead in London there.
We're getting it all today. All right.
It's going to be interesting, this podcast.
You're right, won't it be? Good Lord. I think the phrase here, I don't know whether it's the same in English, shit show, flying circus a bit today. But the subject matter.
No one's paying for this. It's free.
Yeah, that's true. It is free. Yeah, that's right. What else, Chairs?
I think that covers anything that I think was relevant there. Those were three really large topics that I think needed address, and obviously we'll revisit the ticketing piece. So over to you, Mr. Sam.
Alrighty. So Daniel broke down the general sources of funding, debt, naming rights, advanced sales, both corporate and season tickets. And I don't think there was anything terribly new there. But I am interested to learn how granular that discussion was, and did you, were there any major takeaways from when he started talking about the finances? And I'm curious to know whether he was a willing participant, or was that something that you kind of had to drag him into? And was he any less enthused about this topic relative to others?
I think at the end, can you hear me okay, by the way?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I think at the end of the day, it's a private deal between a private company and a bank or whatever. So you're never going to get massive amounts of detail here. Rothschild are on board to find the most appropriate funding, mechanism. So they're looking at that. I think he was fairly willing to discuss at a top level. I'd be very, very surprised if they'd drill down any deeper in a discussion with a supporters trust, to be utterly honest with you, when they know that's going into the public domain. For me, the key takeout was the sequencing. So I'm not an expert on building stadiums. So I want a clarification as to what happened when. So the planning permission hopefully needs to come first, and the main contractor appointment, then the funding, the bank financing. So getting that whole thing in kind of a timetable format was probably the biggest takeout for me from that section.
Yep. Okay, great. You talked about ticketing, and we're going to mention that later, making it affordable to get those 40,000 core fans in there. Well, we've got to get, 61,000 in and out for 20 or so home matches in the Premier League and the other matches that we will have in a given year, plus the NFL. So transportation infrastructure is obviously very, very important here. I mean, I know it's really more part of the council's work, but can you just speak to how the transportation arteries are going to change getting people in and out of the area?
Mark?
I think shall I go for that? One of the most important things is going to be White Hart Lane Station itself, which is, for years has been, there are big queues outside the ground, especially after the game, to get trains on there as well. So, we do quite a lot of work trying to sort of lobby the train companies to improve the service as well. The whole of White Hart Lane Station is going to be rebuilt, it seems, and we're trying to have as much impact as possible into discussions with the council and the club. And they're fairly receptive to that as well. The club probably more so than the council, I think I'd have to say, because we say, we're the people that use the station, so it would be a good idea maybe to talk to us about how we use it and what some of the issues we've had are as well. And I think, that it's often said that it's not particularly well served by transport links, and I think there are 8 train stations within walking distance of White Hart Lane as well. So it's a case of seeing if those kind of wider networks are being upgraded. And I think there is quite a lot of work going on across London on upgrading the rail network as well. So they seem confident that we will be able to get people in and out of the stadium. It is a lot of extra bodies that will be coming in and out on match days, but they seem pretty confident that they can do that. I think nearer the time, obviously, there'll be discussions about, what's going to happen with, controlled parking zones and, whether roads will be closed or not, or whether there'll be extra buses laid on around the stadium. But I think they seem to be on top of the transport side of things pretty well.
So that'll remain a rail station. It's not going to become a proper tube station, though, right?
No, there was talk about expanding the Victoria Line down to Northumberland Park. But at the moment, that's not happening. It was all to do with having to feed more trains back onto the Victoria Line. If they use that as a loop, it was going to basically throw out the entire scheduling on the whole of the Victoria Line. So at this moment in time, that's not being looked at. Anything can change, though, obviously. I mean, it would be fantastic to have a Victoria Line link going down there, but it's not looking massively likely at this moment.
But White Hart Lane Station will still be a rail link, and that link will come in from Liverpool Street, and I think it comes down from Cambridge the other side, doesn't it, and through Enfield. So.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously far from our area of expertise, but, a tourist destination is being built there, and if you don't have transportation infrastructure to allow it to be so, it's a bit of a fail. And I can't imagine from a planning perspective, both private and public, that they haven't addressed what needs to be
if
addressed.
the transport wasn't there, the planning permission wouldn't be granted.
No.
So
I think we can probably safely say that during the season away from White Hart Lane, that's kind of the target time that Haringey and whoever will be looking to do those, improvements and to rebuild the station. Obviously, it makes sense to do that when no one's there.
Got it. Moving forward to obviously a very important issue, ground sharing. Can you identify, in your opinion right now, what you think is the most plausible potential ground share solution for our club?
Let's flip that. So I think from a trust point of view, we are campaigning to keep Tottenham in London. That's an absolute priority. So we are running a London ground for a London club campaign. That means that Wembley is obviously one that we're looking at very closely. If you've read the minutes of the recent board-to-board meeting, you'll know there are obviously complications there, but the FA have gone away to discuss whether or not it will be feasible for Chelsea and Tottenham to share that stadium across the 17-18 season. If Wembley's off the table, we also then need a backup in London. There is a stadium that's built by taxpayers' money, and that's just round the corner in Stratford, and that's called the Olympic Stadium. So there's some, conversations going on amongst the trust board, I should stress here, about whether or not that would be feasible. I'll let Martin expand on that more later. And then obviously, if neither of those two options work, that's kind of London exhausted. And then we need to look at what, in my opinion, is like just the worst possible outcome, which will be Milton Keynes. Martin. And you still think that the discussions are going on with Milton Keynes, that's still fluid? I think the club needs to have somewhere to move us. I mean, they have a duty of care to us as a football club. They can't withdraw us from the league. So they need to be assured they could play somewhere. I'm pretty sure that they could play at Milton Keynes. it doesn't mean that that's the only option, and it doesn't mean that that's their preferred option right now. But they would have to have something in their back pockets, or we couldn't go ahead with the stadium build.
Is that part of the reason, though, from the supporter standpoint, to have an event, so, per se, that says, a London stadium for a London club, so that Milton Keynes becomes the last absolute option?
Yeah, you're
absolutely
probably right there.
Absolutely. I mean, we think it could be argued, and some of our members at a members meeting the other night did argue that. They said, look, it's just, if we do go outside London, it's only one season. We're a famous club. There'll be lots of publicity around the building of the stadium, so maybe it wouldn't be such a big deal. We're worried about the implications of moving out of London if that does happen, not just because of the effect that they'll have on the supporters that currently travel from within London, and particularly for evening games as well. But West Ham at the moment are aggressively marketing themselves as West Ham United London. And so, you've talked about this before in this podcast, the influence of being in the capital city and London and its standing as a financial centre in the world is very, very important to stay there, as well as for those, you could say they're kind of romantic issues, but they're important. These romantic issues and these attachments are what make football such an attractive business to business people. That that it is a club that has always played in that part of London, and that connection that we've got with London is something that I think we give up at our peril. But Kat's right that they have to have a fallback position. It would have been good if the FA had spoken to us before about Wembley, but the FA, we understand, had a position where they didn't want any Premier League club to use Wembley, and that's now changed as well. The only other stadium that would possibly be big enough in London is Twickenham, and there's a whole issue around Twickenham where they do not want football to be played at that stadium, and the Rugby Football Union and the people who live around Twickenham, who are very, very well connected people, will do all they can to stop football being played at Twickenham, because apparently the fans are a bit too oiky and boisterous, unlike rugby fans who are all very well behaved. So they don't want football fans there. So there's a limited amount of options that we've got. But we think that we're still pushing. Wembley's the one that's come out as the favourite for in our surveys, where people have said that if we have to move away from White Hart Lane, then that's where they prefer to go. So that's what we're trying to push for at the moment. But I think we've got to keep all our options open.
What is it that Chelsea is doing to Stamford Bridge that's needing them to be away from their stadium for a year?
They're upgrading that ground as well.
4 years.
Oh, is it 4 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, massive renovation. I think they're taking it up to 60,000 capacity, aren't they, Martin?
Yeah, they are. I mean, they've been looking at moving the ground for a while, because the story was that the way that Stamford Bridge is built, that you can't really expand it too much. So they were looking at going to Battersea. They've looked at another couple of sites as well. And interestingly enough, the supporters over there found out that under an old piece of law, it's actually the supporters who own the pitch at Chelsea. So they formed an organisation called Chelsea Pitch Owners and stopped the club from moving away from their home. So what they're now looking at is actually trying to crack the problem of redeveloping Stamford Bridge, but that's going to be a 4-year project.
It's across 2 councils and various train lines, isn't it, and everything, Martin?
Yeah. There's a train line that runs behind Stamford Bridge, which carries nuclear waste through one of the most built-up parts of the city. So obviously,
exactly.
Stuff around that and rebuilding is an interesting set of issues. So they've got a tough few years ahead. Not that I'm that bothered about Chelsea having a tough time, but
be a terrible shame if some of that stuff spilled.
the other thing that needs to be borne in mind as well about the stadium move is that if Milton Keynes does end up being an option under the Premier League rules, Tottenham's fixtures would have to take precedence over the club that's currently playing at Milton Keynes, which I'm not sure a lot of Milton Keynes Dons fans have fully taken on board.
You know what the irony is about that, Martin? How we always bitch every year that so many of our openers are away.
Yeah.
Well, we'll finally get a home fixture.
Yeah, maybe.
But it'll be there.
I will just jump in there. Actually, we asked for our fixtures to be away because we need more time to do the build work at White Hart Lane. So this season we actually asked if we could start away. So there you go. And we'll
Oh, we
be doing
did?
the same next year.
Oh,
Because we needed the extra
okay.
week or the extra 10 days or whatever with the construction phase 2 that was starting around the
I'll
North
be damned.
Stadium.
That's the first I've heard of it,
There you
and
go.
I just looked statistically. I think like 7 out of the last 10 years, or something ridiculous like that.
It'll
We've had.
continue
It's
for
been.
next season as well because we need that extra. We need to buy that extra building time.
That's great to
There
know.
you go.
Thanks for
You're
sharing.
welcome.